Hello everyone, welcome to the Cloud Careers YouTube channel. So this is the session 3 of our Linux learning career path. So as a part of the previous session, in order to learn Linux, we saw that how to create a Linux server on AWS Cloud. In AWS Cloud, EC2 is a service which helps you in creating a server for free as a part of the free tier. As a part of the free tier, T2.micro is an instance which helps you in enjoying the instance as a part of the free tier. So where you'll be charged for nothing, where you'll be charged nothing. And today, I'm going to show you a few other concepts that are related to EC2, and then we can quick jump into the basics of Linux. So every day when you're starting practice, every day coming, creating the server and end of the practice, terminating the server, again, start of the session, create a server and terminate the server, it's going to cost you 10, 15 clicks of time, right? Rather than that, we have an option in AWS called as launch template in EC2. So all the properties like what is the AMI, what is the image that you want to use, what is the subnet you want to use, what is the security group that you have to use, or what are the basic properties that you want to configure. You can map everything in a single template. Template is nothing but a predefined options. You can define everything inside this template. And with a single click or 2 clicks of a buttons, you can launch an instance. So that is a ease of it. And along with the launch template, you also have an option called as launch configuration. Launch configuration is an old standard of things. So instead of learning launch configuration, launch templates gives you better aspect, because every time you change something, each and every change is going to be versioned, so that if someone changes something, a new version of template will be coming up, so that if someone does some changes, if you can easily notice and you can go back to the previous version of the template. So, and guys, if you like the content, please ensure you like the channel or subscribe to our content, and that really helps us, motivates us to post more content. Thank you. So without delaying further, let's try to create a server launch template. If you want to create a launch template, all you need to do is come here inside the launch template section. So I would like to create my own launch template, so that rather than me going ahead and selecting all the machines every time, all I can do is I can mention a template name. So always name of the template should be something which should make sense. So since this template is going to be created for the purpose of us to learn and enhance our career and capability on Linux. So for that, I would like to keep the name, keeping that context in mind, Linux learning template. Okay. Also, just try to better that this is having an image CentOS 7, so that just by looking at it, you will understand that it contains CentOS 7 image. Okay. And just keep the description little verbose, or you can also keep the same. And inside the AMI section, rather than you choosing every time, just come here inside the community AMIs, and our AMI works on password, and the username and password is something we already discussed. And the username and password is, in case if you are not aware, CentOS is the username and the password is password123. This is the username and password. While creating the instance, ensure you select that you don't choose any key pair. Okay, if you don't choose proceed without, if you select proceed without key pair, then you can launch the instance with the template. Okay, let's try to come here and launch an instance. Linux learning MI CentOS 7, something like that. Okay, so the CentOS 7 Linux learning AMI is the MI which is created as a part of the Linux learning. So scroll down, and what is the instance that you want to include? We already learned what is an instance type. Instance type is nothing but the type of number of CPU and memory combination in order to give you the better performance. So it's not like you can have a number of CPU and a number of memory. It's always the better combination. X amount of CPU having with Y amount of memory will give you the better performance. So that sort of combination is called as instance type. Amazon has a lot of predefined instance types as a part of the configuration. So as a part of the configuration, okay, I'll be choosing T2 Micro, because T2 Micro helps you in provisioning you the instance as a part of the free tier. That gives you 1 CPU and 1 gig of memory, and proceed without key pair. Okay, so this is the only option which you cannot include in launch template, because whenever you are proceeding without a key pair, that option is not included in the template. So every time you launch a template, you need to ensure you select this option. Okay, rest of the options, I don't select anything. All I do is create a launch template. That's all. Okay, now my launch template is created. Whenever I want to create an instance, all I do is I come here. I'll come here. All I do is launch an instance. That's all. Now you need to select what is the key pair that you need to use. You need to mention that you want to proceed without a key pair. That's all. Then launch an instance. Now the instance will be launched without any key pair. Now let's wait for a minute. And also a couple of people have posted in the comments that when they're creating an instance, it's not coming up immediately. So you need to wait for at least 1 to 2 minutes of time. I mean, less than 1 minute of time. So as a part of the free tier, as per the Amazon's availability, you'll get the instance. I already have some sort of instances. Now this instance which I have created is in the pending instance. So let's wait for it for the resource to be provisioned. Pending is nothing but your request has been placed, but Amazon has not yet fulfilled your request due to, it can be n number of reasons, but the most common reason is if your account is as a part of the free tier, you might get some little you might not get some little priority, but if you create a paid instance like T3 medium or T3 micro, you get immediately because that's not a part of the free tier, but it's absolutely as per the Amazon capacity availability. Okay, now the instance came to running state. I would like to name the server as Linux Learning Server. All right, done. Now, once you're connected to the server, so you can connect to the server either from the PuTTY or from the Excel. My preferred option is Excel. Excel is also like PuTTY, but Excel gives you some better options. Okay, so click on Excel. Now we already know how to connect to the server. SSH is a command. SSH is a protocol which helps you in connecting to the Linux-based machines. If it is Windows, Windows uses RDP. RDP stands for Remote Desktop Protocol. CentOS is the default user account which works without any username and which works with which is the default username created. Okay, so at the rate the IP address. Always ensure you give the public IP address of the machine. When you use public IP, you can access it from the external network. External network is nothing but intranet. DevOps, and the password is password 123. Entered, I connect. Okay, now uptime is a command in Linux which helps you showing since when the machine is up. You can see that the machine is up from 1 minute and from last one user and from last 1 minute, last from 1 minute the system is up and the number of users connected on the system is 1. And load average is a very important parameter which I would like to talk about this in process management, so I would like to hold on it. So another important question people have asked me is, Manu, since you know that this is a CentOS image, you know that the default user account is CentOS, but how will I come to know what is the default user account in my company? It's very easy. Your company will tell. Okay, your organization will tell what is the default user account. But for example, if you are not sure what is the user account, you can check the official documentation, or the easiest hack is, okay, you take any flavor of Linux machines. You take any flavor of Linux. In any flavor of Linux, okay, the first account that will be created is root. Root is a super user account, just like administrator in Windows. So that is the account which will be common on every account. And unfortunately, not everyone in the system can access it. And it's not unfortunate, by the way, that is as per the design. So you try to access it through root, SSH root. Okay, you will come to know that that this is not the default user account and the default user account is something else. Okay, so if you want to know what is that, you can use SSH root @ IP address. If you are connecting using the keys, it tells you that this is not the suggested way. Instead, CentOS is the default user account which is supposed to be used. You'll get a prompt like that. Okay, but we know that, so we are proceeding. SSH CentOS, this is how we can connect. Okay, now you want one more instance. It's a very straightforward thing. All you need to do is inside the launch templates of the EC2, click on it. You come here inside the Linux learning template, click on it, launch the instance from the template, and you can choose how many number of instances you want. I would need 3 instances or 2 instances this time. You come here, scroll down, and you will mention what whether you want to proceed without key pair or not. I want to proceed without key pair. Click on it, and boom, your instances are created. Click on this, you can see that the instances are coming up. And both of them are in the pending state because resources are not allocated. But rather than you doing a number of times, you can create all of them together in a shot. And once you're done with the practice, and if you no longer need the instance, since you are learners, so try to terminate the instance. Terminate is like destroy, so that you can create whenever you're practicing. Okay, but in your companies, you don't terminate the servers or destroy the servers once you're done with the practice or once you're done with the business. Okay, they run round the clock and they're expected to run the clock to fulfill the business across the world. Okay, now before you start Linux learning, okay, a lot of people will think Linux is very complicated. I don't know Linux. A lot of things people will say, but this is my take. If you want to start Linux, you need to know a few points. If you remember these points, rest of the things looks 100% easy to you. These are something that I highly encourage all my students to understand this. Okay. First of all, Linux is a CLI. Okay. Command line interface. Okay, which means everything is a command, which means every intended action, okay, every intended action is supposed to be through commands. Okay, you want to create a file, you need to use a command. You need to shut down the machine, you need to use a file. You need to increase the disk size, you need to use a command. You need to check the number of CPU, what is the CPU utilization, what is the memory utilization, you need to use a command. Okay, in Linux, every intended action, whatever you want to do, will be executed through a command. And second important thing, in Linux, everything is a file. Okay, when I say everything is a file, I mean it. Whether you create a normal file or whether you create a folder or whether you create a disk or whatever it may be, in Linux, everything is a file, which means if you want to change some property, all you need to understand is, okay, in Linux, everything is a file. That means there is a file where I need to go and edit the property of the file. Okay, for example, you don't like some setting inside the system. In Windows, what you do, you go to the control panel and you look for the property option, you enable it and disable it, right? But in Linux, no, it's not like that. In Linux, all the configurations will be residing inside a directory called as etc. etc is also referred as exe, few people will call it as. All the system configuration will be resided inside this directory. Inside the directory, you can see a lot of files, and in that one of the file, you need to select the file and you need to edit the file, and then you need to add the property or delete the property. Then you can change the property of the file. Okay, that means if something is not working as expected, or if something is not performing as expected, all you need to do is you need to first think, okay, in Linux, everything is a file. That means I need to look for an appropriate file and I need to deal that file accordingly. Okay, that is very important. In Linux, everything is a file. Even the directory, which is nothing but a folder in Windows, is also referred as a type of file, but okay, it is also a type of file of type directory. Okay, and second thing, in Linux, Linux is case sensitive. What do you mean by case sensitive? In Windows, for example, if you are having a file with the name as, okay, learning.txt, if you try to create another file with learning.txt, it is referred as, both of them are same and you cannot create a file, because in Linux, in Windows, it is not case sensitive. For example, when you're creating a file, okay, so if you try to create learning.txt and another file with the same name but with capital letter, it says that file already exists. But Linux, it's not like that. Linux is case sensitive. These are all different files as per Linux. All three of them are three different files. That means when you try to SSH using SSH CentOS @IP address is the right thing. Okay, for example, if you attempt it using the same thing using the username as SSH CentOS, okay, instead of this, if you try to do it with C capital letter or O capital or whatever it may be, it is reported as an issue, because as per Linux, CentOS is a default user account where all letters are smaller letters. But when you're trying to use it using capital C, it reports an error. For example, what I can do is I exit from here. I try to execute the same command by using C as capital letter. Now what it says, it won't connect. It won't connect because the user doesn't exist. Okay, so always ensure you remember the names. Okay, always try to enter the usernames with default user accounts. Okay, I mean with the lowercase letters. All right, So a lot of people will do this mistake. And even in the previous video, when they practice, when you guys practice, you guys came back with the same thing. So C is not a capital letter. Almost all the user accounts that are created in the Linux will be created with lowercase letters only. Okay, that is one important thing. And another important thing, in Linux, there is no concept of recycle bin. Since we are all coming from the Windows background, we'll think Linux will have a recycle bin, which means if you delete a file, you can retrieve it back. No. If a file is deleted, it is deleted forever. Okay, so there is no concept of recycle bin in Linux. Okay, so that's the reason in order to avoid that, again, we can take backups and we can restore it back. There is a second story, but unlike Windows, okay, if you delete something, you can use Control-Z, or you can get back the deleted file by using the recycle bin. That option is not there. And that's the reason the alternative for it is what we typically do is, okay, whenever we are editing any file, okay, whenever we edit any file using CP command, okay, we'll learn what is CP command. CP is nothing but using CP command. We will take a backup and then do the edit. This is a suggested way. If you are coming for the Linux background, or if you talk to any Linux guy, the way they work will be like this. Whenever they do any sort of changes, they first try to take a backup of the file and then they try to see. Okay, that is one thing I would like to highlight. So in Linux, everything is a file because it's through command line. It's also called as a command line interface. And in Linux, everything is a file. That means you name something, it's a file. Even the disk is referred as a file in Linux. Okay, Linux is case sensitive, which means the uppercase letter and the lowercase letter are 100% not the same, which means if you create a file with learning.txt with lowercase letters and the same file with learning.txt with uppercase letters, as per Linux, as per English, both of them are same. But as per Linux, both of them are two different files. Okay, so this is a classic example. If you attempt to SSH using CentOS @ IP address, it will work. But instead, if you use capital C, it will not work. Okay, and also in Linux, there is no concept of recycle bin, which means if you delete something, it will be gone forever. Okay, it will be gone forever. So that is very important thing. And yeah, that's it. So I would like to talk more about how to read a file, how to create a file, how to create a user account, how to process the file, how to identify the list of process, all these things in the upcoming session. And that will be it for today's session. And I'll be coming back with the next session very soon in 1 or 2 days. And if you like the content, please do hit a like button and please subscribe to the channel. And this encourages us to boost further. Thank you.